Put on Waivers Media Group here, and the Put on Raiders podcast is here right now. We have the quarterbacks in the national quarterbacks in college trying to go to the National Football League. We got your Raider questions. We got a whole bunch of stuff for the Raider Nation. So stay tuned to the Put on Raiders podcast coming to you right now.
Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Hey, welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting out the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day. Well, a little gray day out here in Southern California. How you doing today, Ryan?
Doing good. Yeah, a little overcast. I actually got some rain up here early this morning.
Yeah, rain on Monday. RTPW podcast is my Twitter handle, and Ryan's is RHOLM22 on Twitter. So make sure you check that out as well. Also check us out on we have a bunch of questions from our text line. So keep those pouring in, and obviously smash the like button. Like, subscribe, leave a comment if you will. All that stuff helps the show. So we're trying to get to that 1,000. So we're heading the right direction. So let's keep that going. We'll talk a little Raiders first, and a little NFL draft with the quarterbacks. We're both gonna talk a little bit about that. Let's first of all, the Jack wants to know about, from the 860 wants to know about what do we think about the 8.5 for the Raiders over under from Vegas that came out recently.
Yeah, I think that's a fair number. I mean, if you look at the schedule, it's not an easy schedule. They don't have a lot of layups this year, and then within the division, you got 6 pretty tough games. It's not like you're the Packers where you have 6 layups, or you don't have the Jaguars sitting there or the Texans. So 8.5 in that division is probably right. I'm gonna just say they're gonna go over, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were 9-8 or 10-7 again this year with the schedule they have.
I mean, they could be 10, and the Raiders could legitimately, and I know you people have heard this before, but they could legitimately be 10-7, but be much better than they were last year. Like, I mean, because just the competition they're playing their division, and they're playing the Rams. They're playing some of these really playing the Niners,
Cardinals,
Cardinals, and then another team they're playing. So it could be like a breath of fresh air just to play the Seahawks, I guess. The way that could be the weakest team in the whole thing. As far as that goes, Nick wants to know what are the Devante Adams stat line going to be this year? As far as I think his impact is going to be high touchdowns, and maybe his total catches will be down from in the past, because I mean the ball is going to be spread out, and who knows? I mean, there's going to be games where if the running back and the running game is going, I don't see Josh McDaniels stopping and running the football. He'll just run it all day on you if you can't stop it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get the targets he saw in Green Bay, clearly, because they have other options with Renfro. You have Waller, and then New England, they're famous for throwing the ball to the running backs, getting matchups in the passing game. I'm going to say 85 to 95 catches. I don't think he gets to 100.
100, no.
I'll give him 1,250 yards. I don't think he's going to get to 1,500 like he did in Green Bay, but I'll give him probably 12, 13 touchdowns. So like you said, productive in the red zone. Yeah, if he has like one of those, like the game he had against the Niners last year, where he just exploded on Sunday Night Football, I think a couple years ago maybe. If he has that game like that, like one of those 4 touchdown games where like 200 yards, where they just keep feeding them because they can't be stopped against that opponent, then maybe go over that as far as that goes. Gonna sprinkle on some of these quarterbacks here. Matt Correll, you ever look at a player and you had like a preconceived notion about the player, and you're like, I don't even want to look at this tape, but then you look at the tape and you're like, oh, I kind of like this guy. That's how I kind of felt like with Matt Correll. Like, I really don't. I like him, and I feel like he and along with another quarterback who I'll mention a little bit are probably the best 2 quarterbacks in this draft. I do think it's interesting that
the thing that people used to condemn certain quarterbacks for, every quarterback does it now. Looking at the research for some of these quarterbacks, like so many of them can move without move in the pocket, can run, can throw. They have no problem, quarterbacks sneaking. They just, they have almost not, I'm not saying they have the physical ability of a Josh Allen to run the football, but they're not shy about running the football. These quarterbacks coming in from college. I think that's if you're a statue back there, Ryan, I think that's probably you're by yourself on that totem pole, because most of these guys can move.
Yeah, I like Matt Correll. There is a preconceived notion, obviously, as a USC Trojan fan, him ditching out on USC. I believe he was committed to there at Oaks Christian High School at one point. The concern you have with Matt Correll is the size. He's not very big. He's about 6 foot tall, maybe 200 pounds. Like you said, he can run. He's got enough arm. It's not an elite arm. He's not going to be Howletzing the ball around the park like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, but he's got enough arm to make the throws. It might take a little time to learn an NFL offense coming from Lane Kiffin, where he's basically just running the hurry up out of a shotgun, multiple wide receivers. But understanding what defenses he's looking at might take some time. I don't know how well-versed he is on reading defenses pre-snap, because he didn't really have to do that at Ole Miss. But as far as an athlete, a playmaker, a guy who can get outside the pocket and make some throws, he has the ability to do that. So I think he's a first rounder. I have him third on my quarterback ranking list. It wouldn't surprise me to see him go in the middle of the first round, because once the dominoes start falling with some of these quarterbacks, teams are going to start trading up, because there's some teams that desperately need quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, once one goes, you're going to see a bunch of them start to go as well. But I do like the deep ball. I don't know if any of them. I don't think any of them should, even on a ready-made team, I don't think any of them should play, at least early. Even if you went to Pittsburgh or went somewhere like that where it's a little bit ready-made, I still would say hold off on that. I'll hold off on some of these guys. This isn't the class for that. So I think I still think he is in that same mold. Kenny Pickett. So I gotta say one thing, man, I'm not saying that I don't know what Kenny Pickett's going to be in the pros, but I can't wait to see Jordan Addison play. That dude is he is one of the sickest receivers I've seen, in a minute. I like him a lot. Pickett to Addison was just a tremendous combination in college football. And I can't wait to see Addison coming in. It was funny when I watch a tape for one player and you're seeing, oh my God, this guy is his teammate is an amazing player. What are your thoughts about Pickett? I'm not, the gloves part of it, the hands, the size, he can move, he can do some things. I'm not sure if he is going to be, have the arm strength, have that ability to really to run a program in the National Football League. I don't know if he is. He'll probably get drafted in the first round, because people need quarterbacks. But what are your thoughts about him?
Yeah, Pickett's the safe one in this draft class, because you know what you're getting. He's a high floor, low ceiling guy. And to me, he reminds me a lot of Andy Dalton. Kind of, if everything around him is good enough, if he has a good defense, if he has weapons, he's not going to turn the ball over a ton through the air. I do have concerns about the fumbling with the small hands. That is an issue. I know people don't want to bring it up, but
it's
Dave
huge.
Craig, even Derek Carr, those guys get hit in the pocket by NFL linemen with small hands, they drop the ball.
Yep.
So he's going to have to fix that. As far as, reading defenses, anticipation, getting the ball out, he can do that. He doesn't have a really strong arm, so he's not going to be making waiting to the last second and unloading balls down the field. He's going to have to anticipate things, but he's shown he can do that. He's kind of a one-year guy at Pitt this year. He had an amazing year. I think he had 42 touchdowns, but he hasn't had a ton of success prior to that. To me, his upside, like I said, is probably Andy Dalton. If you get a league average quarterback out of him, that's kind of the ceiling somewhere, 15th in the league that you can win with. Are you ever going to win big in today's NFL against the elite quarterbacks? And then probably not. But for a team that just needs a steady hand under center, Washington, Carolina, some of these teams that have just been looking for a guy, he makes sense to a few of those teams. Maybe the Steelers, because they will play defense, they will run the football. He could fit there, obviously being a Pitt guy, but he's the safe one. He's probably the only one out of this group I think should play early that probably could play early.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think there's a real ceiling here. I think you know what you're getting. And the best case scenario, you're getting Andy Dalton.
Yeah. Malik Willis, I think one of the things that people are gonna keep, coming back at me with is like, why Liberty? Like, why is somebody with that kind of talent end up at Liberty? It could be he could have fell in love with the coach. Something like that. Who knows? Like, you don't have to wait to transfer. You can just transfer and go play somewhere. So that's something that you got to think about. But there's also an aspect of him where the ball just there's some baseball pitchers who it happens who it happens with, and you see with some NFL guys where the ball just when they throw it, it just explodes out of their hand. And I think he's a guy who the ball just really explodes out of their hand. Like it's nuts how much. In a workout he's just going to throw you, and you saw at his pro day. He was thrilling people with it. So the pro days are whatever they are. But as far as what he does with the ball in his hands, he can move around as well too, like all these quarterbacks can. As far as a comp goes, I don't know if I want to give him that Russell Wilson kind of thing. He doesn't really have. I don't think he's like that. I think it's important for him to kind of, and he doesn't pick where he goes, obviously, but it's important for him to go to the right situation, because this could be like, 3 years from now, we're still talking about Malik Willis's potential if he doesn't go to the right spot. And that could be the case for all of these. But I think here's a guy who has the ability to just explode if he just sits behind the right quarterback, the right play caller. He could do some special things, I think, and he has the highest upside of any of these guys.
Yeah, he's the anti-Kenny Pickett. He's the guy that has the high ceiling, but he also has a really low floor. You don't know what you're getting here. He's a tough evaluation because there was no talent around him at Liberty. So you start watching the tape, and you question. You see the traits. You see the arm strength, the ability to move in the pocket, speed. He can make all the throws you need him to make, but he turned the ball over a lot at Liberty, which is a question. The decision making. How is he going to handle it against NFL defenses? This is a guy that probably shouldn't play right away, but he will. Let's be honest. The guys that are going to pressure on, they're going to play. At some point, they're playing. You're going to have to be patient with him. But like I said, the upside's there because of the talent. Now, is he ready? Is this kind of like Trey Lance? He's probably a little bit further along than Trey Lance as far as he's played more. But I don't think if you throw him out there year one and you're on a bad team and you don't, let's just say, someone in the top 10 takes him, Carolina takes him. How much success is he really going to have? He won't have a lot of success early. He's going to need a good offensive line. The other question is, how does a guy with his escapability get sacked? It was a lot. I want to say like 51 times last year at Liberty. It was a big number.
So question, do guys, I find that like a lot of scrambling quarterbacks or current quarterbacks who have escapability get sacked a lot. And
they do.
And like, to me, it's always been because the ball is just not out on time a lot of the time, right? And they have that in their head, I can get by this defensive lineman, even though he's built like Max Crosby and has like arms from one end of the garage to the other. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like that I think that's probably the problem too. And how do you get that out of him to like, hey, listen, let's live for another play. Let's dump that down for a 4-yard gain to the running back, so we can stay on schedule, so we can get big plays later on.
Yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take reps within a pro offense, understanding your 3 and 5 step drops, where your hot reads are. Yeah. Probably a lot of half field reads as a rookie where he's only reading one side of the field. He's probably not going to be ready to go across. Now, if he's getting run down by linemen in Liberty's conference, the linemen in the NFL are all big, fast, and strong. So he's not getting away from those guys. It's probably a lot of him just trusting his athletic ability and thinking that he can get away from some of these defensive linemen and linebackers at Liberty. He just didn't. But he scares me the most out of all these guys, because this is a guy that you're either going to hit big or you're going to be looking for another quarterback in like 3 years. I don't think there's a middle ground here. He's a boom or bust guy for me.
Yeah. Is he? I had a comp for him and I forgot it. Is he like Baker? Is he better than Baker? A better prospect than Baker Mayfield? Because Baker gets caught in those moments.
I don't think he is a better prospect than Baker Mayfield. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, because Baker Mayfield a lot of times gets sacked because he thinks he can outrun some of these guys, like he's at Oklahoma still, and he ends up can't doing it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't want to. I think for this group, I don't want to overrate any of these guys, because we know what it looks like when we have a guy who's at the top of the draft, right? At quarterback.
I don't think any of these guys are ever going to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. You're probably getting, if you're lucky, somewhere 10 to 15. Some of these guys are going to be middle of the pack guys, and some of these guys aren't going to make it. That's just how this works. But I don't think at the end of the day, there's not a Justin Herbert, there's not a Josh Allen, there's not even a Trevor Lawrence if you want to go there. There might not even be a Mac Jones in this group.
Yeah, that's interesting. Desmond Ridder. Do you have? I wasn't really feeling it when I watched him, especially with some of the deep balls, like kind of a lot of them underthrown, stuff like that. What are your thoughts about Ridder? I know he's a guy who I know folks in the Raider Nation like a lot. I don't see it with Ridder.
Yeah, accuracy to me is the question. How accurate can he be in down in and down out on those intermediate throws, and especially down the field? Can he make those plays? Now, is he athletic? Yes. Does he have arm strength? Yes. How well does he read a defense? He struggled in games where he faced a little bit better competition. Obviously, again, at Cincinnati, he's not surrounded by a ton of talent, although that was a good team. But it's hard when you turn on that Alabama game and watch him struggle mightily in that playoff game. So he's a guy that you're taking on traits. He's got size. He's got speed. He can move. He's got arm strength. But can you teach accuracy? That's a tough one. It's like baseball pitchers. Can you teach command? I don't know at this point.
Some guys,
he's gonna have to sit somewhere. I would not play him year one.
Yeah, some guys get better at it. Some guys don't. I mean, some guys get better at accuracy. Like, I know Josh Allen worked on his accuracy and got better at it. Some guys, it just never comes. So they're always gonna end up high or low and not where the ball should go. The only other quarterback that I thought of was Carson Strong. I know later on in the draft, he's another guy who is going to be he's a bigger, taller of the quarterbacks, but he's also a guy who is going to be I wouldn't have him start, obviously, but he could be a guy who could maybe help a team down the road if he can. I mean, he's more of a stationary target too as well. He's not that guy who's going to run around, right?
Yeah, he's a statue in the pocket. It's arm strength. He can really drive the football. It's a medical issue with him with some of the knee injuries. Is he going to pass teams medical? How long do they think he can hold up? He's going to be stationary in the NFL, so he's not going to be a guy that's going to get out of the pocket. So you're going to have a really good offensive line. I'd probably stay away from him. If I was the Raiders or some of these teams, just I don't really like Carson Strong as a prospect. I thought more Sam Howell is kind of like the fifth guy in this group. North Carolina. Now he reminds me, he looks a little bit like Baker Mayfield, but they play a little bit similar, kind of gunslinger. Enough arm, not elite arm. Okay accuracy, not great accuracy. If he gets in the right system with the right talent around him, he can be a starter in the NFL. But I still think there's not a lot of upside here. He's another guy that, best case scenario, you're probably looking at, somewhere 15 to 18 in the NFL as far as a starter. And some of these guys are probably going to end up as good backups, but it's not a great draft if teams are looking for quarterbacks. And then there's a steep fall off after that. There's really not a lot of guys that excite you. There's not developmental guys that you want to get excited about 4th, 5th round. Green Bay was famous for it under Ron Wolf, taking, Mark Brunell, Aaron Brooks, those kind of guys, developing them as mid-round draft picks and then trading them off for assets. I don't really see a guy that I like after those first 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah, makes sense. So that's done for the quarterback. So, like I said, the class is the class. I'm not trying to, I think we know when we have a big prospect. I don't think we have any of the big time prospects in this year's draft. James wants to know who we think the best quarterback in the draft was. I think if I was a draft needy team, I think I would talk all month and all the months. I'll talk all those months and weeks going up to it and tell my group we're taking Malik Willis, and then I'd probably chicken out and take Correll. That's probably what I would end up doing. And maybe I'd regret it, but that's what I probably would end up doing. Who do you think is the best QB in this class?
Well, I think today with the contracts in the NFL, the rookie contracts being such a minimal investment for these teams, you're not giving them $50 million like you did Jamarcus Russell or Sam Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, shoot for the moon here, and you probably take Willis and hope that your coaching staff can coach him up, and that a year from now that you can run him out there for the last 4 years of that deal, and you're just trying to shoot for upside. Because at some point you got to get a quarterback who's a top, 5, 8, 10 guy in this league to really compete. The rest of these guys, I don't think they have the upside to get above like 15th in the league. So I would probably take Willis. Now, I probably wouldn't do it in the top 10 picks, although he's probably going to go there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like, it's going to be really interesting. That first team in Carolina at number 6 makes the most sense. Like, they have to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
What happens after that? What does Seattle do? Do they move up now that they have draft picks from trading off Russell Wilson? What does Washington do? What do the Lions do? The Lions have a bunch of picks that they got from Stafford. Do they go up and get a pick? Because they can't keep Jared Goff much longer.
It's interesting too. Like, would you keep? I mean, like, I'm always interested to see. Like, I know that the guy there in their front office was with the Rams, and he brought Goff over. But at some point, I mean, you get a young quarterback in there, and you move on from Goff. I mean, there's quarterback needy teams. They might be able to, if Goff plays decent, they might be able to get something for him.
Yeah, they're in a prime spot. They have the last pick in the first round. So they if a quarterback falls there, I think Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar Jackson, where you get that 5th-year option, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense for them to do that at the top of the draft. They're at 2 or 3. But at 32, if Sam Howell is sitting there or Desmond Ridder falls there and they like them enough, I could easily see the Lions taking a guy to get that extra year of control where you can develop him. You don't have to play him right away because you have Jared Goff. Not that Jared Goff's any good, but you're not forced to play the rookie right away, and then you move on from Goff next offseason. So they have a ton of picks. I wouldn't trade up necessarily from 32 unless there's a guy they really like, but I think one of these guys might fall to them at 32.
Yeah, we got a couple questions from Liz and Jim. Jim wants to know what do we think for what would be an acceptable sack total from Jones and Crosby, and then Liz wants to know, is there anybody who we let go in free agency who we might regret letting go? I think for letting go, I really don't. It's a whole different system. So like, especially defensively and offensively, it's totally different. So like, if you keep Casey Hayward is not going to fit what Patrick Graham wants to do, and if you keep obviously you keep Jalen Richard or somebody like that, they probably can't do the things that Josh McDaniels wants to do. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I know if the minute somebody makes a play, they, I remember, Lynn Bowden Jr. Every time he called a pass, on somebody on Raiders Twitter would put that video on there to say that we messed up and we should have kept him. But what are your thoughts about those two questions?
So the player that we might regret, I'm gonna say it's gonna be either Darius Philon, assuming he gets healthy, or Jonathan Hankins. Some of those big guys on the interior, the defensive line the Raiders moved on from. I liked both of those guys. I thought they could have been fits within the new scheme, so I'll go there. I don't think they're going to miss any of the defensive backs, and they didn't really lose anyone offense. What was the other question?
The other question was an acceptable sack total for Crosby and I'm almost like Crosby and Nash. Crosby and Jones.
Yeah, I would acceptable. I would say 20. If they both get the double digits, I would hope that they would get closer, pushing 45, not 45, 25, 27, somewhere in that. One of them gets 15, the other gets 12 kind of range, 14 and 11. I don't think either one of I don't think they're both getting 15. I don't think we're looking at 30 here between two guys.
Spot now.
25 to 27 would be great. I think if they both get to double digits, I think that's fine.
That's fine. Cool. All right. So for us, we'll see you next time on the Put On Waivers podcast. We'll see you next time. So thank you for joining us here. And then obviously click below for all the little news for the new shows. Check in the bio. We have all that stuff for you going on. So we'll see you next time.